The stars stretched endlessly across the black void of space. Captain Jiho stood on the bridge of his research vessel, watching the sensors with tired eyes. He had been in space for 3 months now, mapping uncharted regions near the Andromeda frontier. It was quiet work, lonely work, but Jiho preferred it that way. He had nothing waiting for him back on Earth except memories he wanted to forget. His crew was small but capable. Hana served as the ship's medic, a gentle woman with quick hands and a kind heart. Taemin kept the engines running and fixed anything that broke, which was often on a vessel this old. Yuna navigated their path through the stars, her calculations always perfect. They were good people, and they gave Jiho space when he needed it. The alarm broke the silence without warning. A sharp beeping filled the bridge and Yuna's fingers flew across her console. "Captain, I'm picking up a distress beacon," she said, her voice tense. "It's weak, but it's definitely there." Jiho straightened in his chair. Distress beacons were rare this far from civilization. "Can you identify the source?" Yuna shook her head. "The signal is damaged, but it's coming from a ship about 200 kilometers from our position. The vessel appears to be drifting." "Set a course," Jiho ordered, "and get Taemin and Hana to the airlock. We might need to board." The journey took less than an hour. As they approached, the mystery ship came into view on the main screen. It was unlike anything Jiho had seen before. The hull was smooth and organic looking, with panels that seemed to grow from the structure rather than being bolted on. Strange symbols covered the surface, glowing faintly in the darkness. "It's alien," Taemin said, stating the obvious. "I've never seen this design before." Jiho studied the ship carefully. There were no visible weapons, no signs of battle damage. But something was wrong. The vessel tumbled slowly through space, completely powerless. "Life signs?" he asked. Hana checked her medical scanner. Her face went pale. "One very faint." "It's small, Captain. Whatever it is, it's not an adult." Jiho felt his stomach tighten. A child alone on a dead ship in the middle of nowhere. "Prepare boarding procedures. Full environmental suits. We don't know what atmosphere they breathe." The 4 of them suited up and crossed to the alien vessel through a docking tube. Taemin worked his magic on the airlock and it hissed open with a sound like escaping breath. The interior was dark, lit only by emergency lights that pulsed weakly. The air inside was breathable for humans, which surprised Jiho. They removed their helmets but kept the suits on. The ship's corridors were narrow and curved, designed for beings much smaller than humans. Jiho had to duck to avoid hitting his head. They found bodies in the crew quarters. 3 aliens long dead, their crystalline skin dull and cracked. They looked almost fragile, like living glass sculptures. Hana examined them briefly. "Solari," she whispered. "I've read about them. They're telepathic, nomadic. They rarely interact with other species." "What killed them?" Yuna asked. Hana shook her head. "I don't know. There are no visible wounds. It's like they just stopped living." Jiho moved deeper into the ship, following the signal from Hana's scanner. The life sign was coming from a small room at the end of a corridor. The door was partially open and a faint blue glow came from inside. He pushed the door open carefully. The room was tiny, barely larger than a closet, and huddled in the corner, wrapped in a silver blanket, was a child. She was so small. Her skin was like crystal, catching the light and reflecting it in rainbow patterns. Her eyes were huge, taking up much of her delicate face, and they stared at Jiho with pure terror. She couldn't have been more than 5 years old by human standards. "It's okay," Jiho said softly, keeping his distance. "We're here to help." The child didn't respond. She pressed herself further into the corner, her small body trembling. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Hana pushed past Jiho and knelt down, making herself smaller. "She's terrified. Let me try." Hana spoke in soothing tones, holding out her hand slowly. The child watched with wide eyes but didn't move. Minutes passed. Finally, the child's gaze shifted to something she was clutching. It was a data pad, its screen cracked and dark. "She won't let go of it," Hana said. "It must be important to her." "Can we take her back to our ship?" Taemin asked from the doorway. Jiho nodded. "We don't have a choice. She'll die here." They tried to approach the child again, but she shrank away from every movement. Jiho's heart ached watching her fear. Finally, he did something that surprised everyone, including himself. He sat down on the floor, crossing his legs, and simply waited. "Captain?" Yuna asked. "Go back to the ship," Jiho said quietly. "Prepare the medical bay. I'll bring her when she's ready." His crew hesitated, but they obeyed. Jiho sat in silence with the child, not moving, not speaking. He simply existed in the same space as her, showing her that he wasn't a threat. An hour passed, then 2.
Slowly, very slowly, the child's trembling stopped.
Her eyes never left Jiho's face, studying every detail. He smiled gently and pointed to himself. "Jiho," he said. "My name is Jiho." The child didn't respond, but something in her expression shifted. Less fear, more curiosity. Jiho pointed to her. "Do you have a name?" "Nothing." The child clutched her datapad tighter. "That's okay," Jiho said. "You don't have to tell me." He slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out a protein bar. He unwrapped it carefully, broke off a piece, and ate it. Then he held out the rest to the child. "Are you hungry?" For a long moment, the child didn't move. Then, so slowly it was barely perceptible, she reached out one crystalline hand. Her fingers touched the protein bar, then snatched it back to her chest. She sniffed it cautiously before taking a tiny bite. Jiho smiled. "Good, that's good." He stood up carefully, not making any sudden movements. He held out his hand. "Will you come with me? I promise you'll be safe." The child looked at his hand, then at his face, then back at his hand. After what felt like forever, she placed her tiny crystalline hand in his. Her skin was cool to the touch, smooth like polished stone. Jiho gently closed his fingers around hers and helped her stand. She was light, far too light, and she swayed on her feet from weakness. "Let's get you somewhere warm," Jiho said. As they walked through the dead ship together, the child stayed close to Jiho's side. She didn't make a sound, didn't try to communicate. But she held his hand tightly, and that was enough. When they returned to the human vessel, Hana took the child to the medical bay immediately. Jiho stood outside watching through the window as Hana ran scans and tests. The child sat perfectly still, those huge eyes following every movement. "What will we do with her?" Yuna asked, standing beside Jiho. "Find her people," Jiho said. "Take her home." But even as he said the words, something inside him stirred. Something he thought had died 3 years ago when he lost his own daughter. He pushed the feeling down, refusing to acknowledge it. The child was not his responsibility beyond getting her to safety. That was all. Nothing more. But when those crystalline eyes met his through the glass, Jiho felt his resolve crack just a little. 3 weeks had passed since they found the child. Jiho named her Nari after his grandmother's favorite flower. The name meant lily in Korean, a flower that was delicate but could survive harsh conditions. It seemed fitting. Nari never spoke. She never made any sound at all. Hana had run every test she could think of, scanning Nari's body from every angle. The results troubled her. "Her telepathic organs are damaged," Hana explained to Jiho in the medical bay. Nari sat on the examination table, swinging her legs and watching them with those big eyes. The Solari communicate through thought projection. They share feelings, images, and ideas directly from mind to mind. But Nari can't do that anymore. Jiho looked at the small girl. "Can you fix it?" Hana shook her head. "I don't know enough about Solari biology. The damage looks old, maybe months or even years. Whatever happened to her, it destroyed her ability to communicate the way her species normally does." "So she's trapped," Jiho said quietly, locked inside her own mind with no way to reach out. "Maybe," Hana said. "Or maybe she'll find another way." Nari tilted her head, watching Jiho speak. She couldn't understand their words yet, but she seemed to sense the concern in his voice. She reached out and touched his hand gently. Jiho smiled at her. "It's okay, Nari, we'll figure it out." He had taken responsibility for Nari's care. It made sense as captain, he told himself. Someone had to do it. But the truth was more complicated. Every time he saw her, he remembered his daughter. Not because they looked alike, they didn't at all, but because of the way Nari watched the world with wonder and fear mixed together, because of how small her hand felt in his. Jiho taught Nari simple gestures, nodding for yes, shaking her head for no, pointing at things she wanted. She learned quickly, her intelligence obvious despite her inability to speak. Within days, she could communicate basic needs. He showed her pictures on his datapad. Earth animals, human cities, stars, and planets. Nari would study each image carefully, tracing the shapes with one crystalline finger. Her favorite was a picture of a dog. She would point at it repeatedly, and something that looked like a smile would cross her face. Meals became a routine. Jiho would sit with Nari in the common room. and slowly the rest of the crew would join them. At first, Nari was frightened of the others. She would hide behind Jiho whenever Taemin or Yuna came too close. But over time, she grew comfortable. Yuna was the first to break through. She brought colored pencils and paper, sitting quietly at the table and drawing simple shapes. Nari watched with fascination. Yuna slid the paper and pencils across to her without a word. Nari's hand trembled as she picked up a pencil. She looked at Yuna, then at Jiho, as if asking permission. Jiho nodded encouragingly. Nari pressed the pencil to the paper and drew a circle. Then another. Then a small figure with big eyes. "That's you," Yuna said, smiling. "You drew yourself." Nari drew more. She filled page after page with images. Stars appeared often, scattered across the paper in clusters, and there was always a tall figure standing next to the small one. The tall figure held the small one's hand in every picture. Taemin found the ship's logs 3 weeks after the rescue. He had been trying to repair Nari's damaged datapad, hoping it contained information about her family. What he found instead made his blood run cold. "Captain, you need to see this," Taemin said, his voice tight. Jiho left Nari coloring with Yuna and followed Taemin to the engine room. The engineer had connected the datapad to his workstation, and lines of text filled the screen. It was in the Silari language, but the ship's computer was translating it. "This is a research log," Taemin said, "from something called the Advancement Project. It's a rogue organization that was conducting experiments on Silari children." Jiho felt sick. "What kind of experiments?" "They were trying to amplify telepathic abilities, turn them into weapons. The log says they took children from nomadic families, ones who wouldn't be reported missing. They ran tests, surgeries, genetic modifications." Taemin's hands shook as he scrolled through the data. Most of the children died. The few who survived were permanently damaged. "Nari," Jiho whispered. "She was Subject 17, Taemin said. The experiment failed on her. Her telepathic organs were destroyed instead of enhanced. The log says they were transporting her to a disposal facility when their ship was attacked. The crew died and the ship was left drifting." Jiho's fists clenched. She was being taken somewhere to be killed. "Or worse," Taemin said quietly. Jiho stood there staring at the screen. All those nights when Nari woke up trembling, sweat on her crystalline skin, the way she flinched at sudden movements, the fear in her eyes when they first found her. It all made terrible sense now. "Does anyone else know about this?" Jiho asked. "Not yet. Don't tell the others, not yet. I need to think." Jiho returned to the common room. Nari was still drawing, her tongue sticking out slightly in concentration. She looked up when he entered and smiled, a small expression that lit up her whole face. "Come here, Nari," Jiho said gently, sitting down. Nari hopped off her chair and walked over to him. Without hesitation, she climbed into his lap and settled there like it was the most natural thing in the world. She held up her newest drawing. It showed the ship, their ship, surrounded by stars. Inside, she had drawn stick figures, one for each crew member. The figure representing Jiho was holding the smallest figure's hand. "That's beautiful," Jiho said, his voice thick. Nari looked up at him and placed her small hand over his heart. Then she placed her other hand over her own chest. Jiho didn't need telepathy to understand what she was trying to say. That night, Jiho called a meeting in the bridge. Nari was asleep in his quarters, finally resting peacefully. He told the crew what Taemin had discovered. Hana covered her mouth, tears in her eyes. "Those monsters. She's just a baby." "We need to find her family," Yuna said. "Get her home." "The Silari are nomadic," Jiho said. "We don't even know what clan she belonged to. And even if we find them, what then? Her telepathy is gone. She can't communicate the way they do." "She's still one of them," Yuna argued. "Is she?" Jiho asked quietly. "Or is she something new now? Something caught between two worlds?" Taemin leaned back in his chair. "What are you saying, Captain?" Jiho was quiet for a long moment. "I'm saying we can't just hand her over to the first Silari we find. We need to make sure she'll be safe, that she'll be wanted. And if she's not?" Hana asked. "Then we'll figure something else out." The crew agreed to continue searching for information about Nari's origins while keeping her safe. They sent out careful inquiries through official channels, avoiding any mention of the experiments or the rogue organization. Days turned into weeks. Nari continued to grow more comfortable on the ship. She learned to help with small tasks, handing tools to Taemin or organizing medical supplies with Hana. She still didn't speak, but her presence had become a natural part of their daily life. One night, Jiho woke to find Nari standing beside his bunk. She was trembling, tears streaming down her crystalline face. He sat up immediately. "Bad dream?" he asked softly. Nari nodded, her whole body shaking. Jiho lifted her onto the bunk and wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. She curled against his chest, small and frightened. He began to hum an old lullaby, something his grandmother had sung to him as a child. The melody was simple and gentle. Slowly, Nari's trembling stopped. Her breathing evened out, and for the first time her crystalline skin began to glow softly, a warm blue light that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Hana had mentioned that Solari glowed when they felt safe and content. Jiho continued humming until Nari fell asleep in his arms. He looked down at her peaceful face and felt something break open inside him. It was the wall he had built around his heart 3 years ago when his daughter died, the wall that kept him safe from feeling too much, from caring too deeply. He was falling in love with this little alien girl, not as a captain responsible for a rescued child, but as something deeper, something that terrified him. 2 months had passed since they found Nari. Jiho had made a decision that both terrified and comforted him. He would keep her with them until they could find her people. No authorities, no research facilities, no one who might treat her like a specimen instead of a person. The crew supported his choice without question. They had all grown attached to the small girl who moved silently through their ship, bringing an unexpected lightness to their isolated lives. Nari had developed routines. Every morning she would wake up in Jiho's quarters and pad barefoot to the common room. She would climb onto a chair by the window and watch the stars pass by, her crystalline face reflecting the light in rainbow patterns. Jiho would make breakfast, something simple that Nari could eat. She liked sweet things best, fruits and grain bars with honey. Yuna had become Nari's favorite person after Jiho. The navigator would spend her free time teaching Nari to draw and recognize symbols. Nari absorbed everything like a sponge. She learned to write her name in both Korean and English characters. She learned numbers and basic math, but she still never made a sound. Not a laugh, not a cry, not even a gasp of surprise. She was completely, utterly silent. One afternoon, Yuna spread out a large piece of paper on the common room table. She gave Nari a full set of colored pencils. "Draw anything you want," Yuna said. "Anything at all." Nari looked at the blank paper for a long time. Then she began to draw. Her hand moved quickly, confidently. The image that emerged was both beautiful and heartbreaking. She drew a place somewhere with tall structures that curved like crystal trees. Small figures moved between them, their hands raised and touching, light flowing between their fingertips. In the center stood a small figure alone, surrounded by darkness while everyone else glowed with connection. "Is this your home?" Yuna asked gently. Nari touched the small figure in the darkness. Then she pointed to herself. "You felt alone," Yuna said. Nari nodded. She drew another picture beside the first. This one showed a different place, a room with metal walls. The small figure was on a table surrounded by tall, shadowy figures. Red marks covered the small figure's body. Yuna's eyes filled with tears. "They hurt you?" Nari nodded again. Then she turned to a new page and drew a third picture. This one showed a ship, stars all around it. Inside the ship were happy figures, all different sizes. The smallest figure was holding hands with the tallest one, and both were glowing. She pointed to this picture, then placed her hand over her heart. Then she pointed at Yuna and Jiho, who had been watching from the doorway. "This is home now," Jiho said quietly. "We're your family now." Nari looked at him with those huge eyes. She stood up, walked over to him, and wrapped her small arms around his waist. Her glow brightened, warm and steady. The peaceful routine was broken when they encountered a Velthari trading convoy. The Velthari were a powerful species known for their military strength and their low opinion of humans. They saw humans as weak, too emotional, too unpredictable. 3 Velthari ships appeared on their sensors without warning. Yuna tried to change course, but the convoy moved to intercept them. "They're hailing us," Taemin said from the communications console. Jiho straightened his uniform. "Put them through." The face that appeared on the screen was reptilian with dark scales and golden eyes. The Velthari commander looked at Jiho with obvious disdain. "Human vessel, you will stop your engines and prepare for inspection." "We're in neutral space," Jiho said calmly. "You have no authority here. We have reports of smuggling in this sector. All ships will be inspected." Jiho knew this was likely a lie, but he also knew he couldn't outrun or outfight 3 Velthari warships. "Fine, but my crew stays armed and you only search the cargo bay." The Velthari commander's eyes narrowed. Agreed. A boarding party of 6 Velthari soldiers crossed to Jiho's ship. They were tall, heavily armed, and moved with military precision. Their leader, a female named Kresh, swept her golden eyes across the cargo bay with clear suspicion. What is your cargo? Kresh demanded. Research equipment and supplies, Jiho answered. We're a survey vessel. We map star systems. Kresh began examining their cargo containers. Jiho stood with his crew, watching carefully. Nari was hidden in his quarters, hopefully safe from discovery. But children are curious, and Nari had grown comfortable on the ship. She didn't understand that some visitors were dangerous. Jiho heard the soft sound of small footsteps behind him. His heart stopped. He turned to see Nari standing in the cargo bay entrance, clutching her worn stuffed animal that Hana had made for her from spare cloth. Every Velthari in the room turned to look at her. Kresh's expression changed instantly from boredom to shock. A Solari child, Kresh hissed. On a human ship. Explain this. Jiho moved quickly to stand between Nari and the Velthari soldiers. We rescued her from a derelict vessel. We're trying to find her family. Kresh's hand moved to her weapon. The Solari are under Velthari protection. You have stolen property of our protectorate. You will surrender the child immediately. She's not property, Jiho said, his voice hard. She's a living being and she stays with us. You dare refuse? Kresh stepped forward. We could take her by force. Nari whimpered softly, the first sound Jiho had ever heard her make. It was small and frightened, and it broke his heart. She ran forward and hid behind his legs, gripping his uniform tightly. Jiho felt something ignite in his chest. Something fierce and protective. Try it, he said quietly. And see what happens. Taemin and Yuna moved to stand beside their captain. Hana appeared from the corridor with a medical scanner that could double as a weapon in a pinch. 4 humans against 6 armed Velthari soldiers. It was suicide. But none of them moved. Kresh studied them carefully. Jiho saw the calculation in her eyes. She could take Nari by force, but it would mean killing the entire crew. Even for the Velthari, attacking an unarmed research vessel would cause political problems. The Silari girl stays with you, Kresh finally said. But know this, human. The Velthari do not forget. You have made enemies today. I can live with that, Jiho replied. The Velthari left the ship. Their convoy moved away, though Jiho suspected they were being followed now. He knelt down and looked at Nari. Are you okay? Nari nodded, but her glow had dimmed to almost nothing. She was terrified. You're safe, Jiho promised. I won't let anyone take you ever. That night, Nari refused to sleep in her own bed. She curled up next to Jiho, her small body pressed against his side. He stroked her crystalline hair gently until her glow returned, soft and steady in the darkness. I know I'm not your real father, Jiho whispered. I know you had a family before all this, but I promise you, Nari, I will protect you, no matter what. Nari's hand found his in the darkness and squeezed gently. In the following days, something shifted in Nari. She began to mimic human behaviors more actively. When Yuna smiled, Nari would try to smile back. When Taemin laughed at something, Nari's small shoulders would shake in silent imitation. She was learning to be human in the ways that mattered. She started humming. Not with her voice, she still couldn't make vocal sounds, but by tapping her fingers on surfaces in rhythm. The melody was simple, childlike. After a few days, Jiho realized it was his lullaby, the one he hummed to her during nightmares. Nari would follow Jiho everywhere. If he went to the bridge, she would sit in the corner with her drawings. If he went to the engine room, she would hand Taemin tools. If he went to the medical bay, she would organize supplies for Hana. But always, she stayed close to him. And whenever they walked anywhere, she would reach up and take his hand, her small crystalline fingers wrapped around his larger ones, trusting and secure. 4 months after finding Nari, their search finally produced results. Yuna discovered information about a hidden Solari refuge station deep inside a nebula called the Veil. It was a secret place where Solari families gathered, safe from the dangers of the wider galaxy. Jiho stood in the bridge, staring at the coordinates on the screen. This was what they had been searching for, a chance to reunite Nari with her people. So why did his chest feel tight? Why did the thought of reaching that station fill him with dread? It will take us 3 days to reach the nebula, Yuna said quietly. Should I set course? Jiho looked back toward his quarters, where Nari was probably drawing or playing with the simple toys the crew had made for her. He thought about her smile, her silent laughter, the way she held his hand, the way she had become part of their family. Set course, he said finally. The next 3 days were strange. Jiho tried to prepare Nari for what was coming. But how do you explain to a child that you're taking her away from everyone she knows? That you're giving her to strangers because it's the right thing to do? Nari seemed to sense that something was wrong. Her glow became dimmer. She stayed even closer to Jiho than usual, holding onto his sleeve whenever he moved. She drew fewer pictures, and the ones she did draw showed the small figure alone again, surrounded by darkness. On the second day, Jiho found Nari in his quarters, packing her few belongings into a small bag. Her damaged datapad, her drawings, the stuffed animal Hana made, a smooth stone Taiman had given her. She moved slowly, carefully, and her crystalline face was wet with tears. "Nari," Jiho said gently, kneeling beside her. "What are you doing?" Nari touched the bag, then pointed toward the window where the nebula was growing closer. Then she touched her chest and looked at Jiho with the saddest expression he had ever seen. "You think you're leaving us," Jiho realized. Nari nodded. More tears fell, leaving gleaming trails on her face. Jiho pulled her into a hug, holding her tightly. "We're trying to find your family. Your real family. People who will understand you better than we can." But even as he said the words, they felt wrong. Nari had a real family. It was him, Hana, Taiman, and Yuna. It was the crew who had cared for her, protected her, loved her. Blood didn't make family. Choice did. On the third day, they reached the Veil Nebula. The clouds of gas and dust created a natural shield, hiding what lay inside. Yuna navigated carefully, following the coordinates they had discovered. Finally, through the swirling colors, a station emerged. It was beautiful. The structure was made entirely of crystal, grown rather than built, shaped by Solari hands over generations. It caught the light of nearby stars and transformed it into a rainbow of colors. Dozens of small ships were docked at various points, their designs organic and elegant. "We're being hailed," Taimin said. An elderly Solari appeared on the screen. Her crystalline skin had a slight amber tint, and her large eyes held wisdom and caution. "Human vessel, you are far from your space. State your purpose." "My name is Captain Jiho. We have a Solari child aboard. We believe she may have family here." The elder's expression changed instantly. "Bring her to the main hangar. We will meet you there." The docking procedure was smooth. Jiho, Hana, and Yuna accompanied Nari off the ship. Taiman stayed behind to monitor systems. Nari held Jiho's hand so tightly her crystalline fingers hurt his skin. The hangar was filled with Solari. News of a found child had spread quickly. Dozens of them stood watching as Jiho and his crew entered. Their crystalline faces were impossible to read, but Jiho could feel their attention like a physical weight. The amber-tinted elder approached, accompanied by 2 younger Solari. "I am Elder Kira. You have done a great service bringing this child to us." She looked down at Nari and her large eyes widened. "Show me your face, little one." Nari pressed closer to Jiho, hiding partially behind his leg. Jiho gently encouraged her forward. Nari took a tiny step and her face caught the light. One of the younger Solari gasped. "That's impossible. That's Nella's daughter. She was taken 2 years ago." "Are you certain?" Elder Kira asked. "I would recognize her anywhere. Those markings on her forehead, the pattern is unique to their family line." Elder Kira knelt down to Nari's level. She raised her hand and light began to glow between her fingers. It was beautiful, a soft blue radiance. "Child, can you hear my thoughts?" Nari stared at the light but didn't respond. She couldn't respond. Her telepathy was gone. Elder Kira tried again, this time projecting harder. Jiho could almost feel the force of her mental push. Nari flinched and whimpered, backing away. She grabbed Jiho's hand again and wouldn't let go. "She cannot hear," Elder Kira said softly. "Her telepathy is damaged beyond repair." The gathered Solari began to murmur. Jiho couldn't understand their telepathic communication, but he could sense the tone. Pity mixed with uncertainty. "What happened to her?" one of the younger Solari asked. Jiho explained about the derelict ship, the experiments, the damage that had been done. He left nothing out. The Solari listened in complete silence. When he finished, Elder Kira's face held deep sadness. "The advancement project. We had heard rumors of such a thing, but we hoped they were false. Many of our children disappeared over the years. Now we know why. Can you help her? Hana asked. Can you fix her telepathy? Elder Kira shook her head. Our healing arts are powerful, but this damage is too severe. The organs themselves are destroyed. She will never communicate as we do. Then what happens to her? Jiho asked, though he dreaded the answer. She can stay with us, Elder Kira said. We will care for her as one of our own, but you must understand she will always be separate. She cannot participate in our bonding circles, cannot share in our communal thoughts. She will exist among us but never truly be one of us. Jiho felt Nari's hand tighten around his. He looked down and saw fear in her eyes. She was shaking her head frantically, silently pleading with him. Give us a moment, Jiho said. He led Nari to the side of the hangar away from the crowd. He knelt down and took both her hands in his. Nari, these are your people. They want to take care of you. Nari shook her head violently. Tears streamed down her face. She pointed at Jiho, then at herself, then made a gesture like holding hands. Then she pointed at the Solari and shook her head again. You don't want to stay with them, Jiho said, understanding. You want to stay with me? Nari nodded desperately. She tried to gesture more, tried to explain something, but she had no words. Her frustration was obvious. She opened her mouth, trying to force sound out, but nothing came. Jiho pulled her into a hug. It's okay. You don't have to stay if you don't want to. But even as he said it, he wondered if he was being selfish. These were Nari's people. This was where she belonged, wasn't it? Elder Kira approached them. Captain, we must discuss the child's future. Her birth family is gone, lost in the conflicts that plague our people, but she has a right to be raised among her own kind. Even if she'll never truly belong, Jiho asked quietly, even if she'll spend her life alone, unable to connect the way you all do? Kira was silent for a moment. You care for her deeply. This is obvious. She's been with us for 4 months. My crew has raised her, protected her, loved her. She's happy with us. But you are not Solari. You cannot teach her our ways, our culture. You cannot give her a connection to her heritage. Jiho looked at Nari. She was watching him with those huge eyes, waiting to see what he would decide, trusting him completely. I can give her something else, Jiho said. I can give her a family that doesn't see her as broken. People who love her not despite her differences, but including them. I can give her a place where she belongs. He stood up, still holding Nari's hand. He looked Elder Kira in the eye. I want to adopt her, officially. I want her to be my daughter. The hangar went completely silent. Every Solari turned to stare. Cross-species adoption was almost unheard of. Most species kept to their own kind. This is highly unusual, Elder Kira said slowly. I don't care. I'm asking for your blessing, but with or without it. I'm not leaving her here to be alone. Nari looked up at Jiho. Her expression was confused, not understanding all the words but sensing their importance. Jiho squeezed her hand gently. Nari, he said softly, would you like to stay with me? Forever? Nari's eyes went wide. She understood that question. She nodded so hard her whole body moved. Jiho smiled. Then I need you to do something for me. Something very important. He knelt down again, bringing himself to her eye level. I need you to tell them. Tell everyone here what you want. You've been trying so hard to speak. I know you can do it. Just one word. That's all I need. Nari's mouth opened. She tried, her small body trembling with effort. Nothing came out. She looked devastated. It's okay, Jiho said. Try again. I believe in you. Nari closed her eyes. Her whole body tensed. She was trying so hard. Pushing past months of silence, past the damage done to her, past all the pain and fear. Her mouth moved soundlessly. Then, barely audible, like the whisper of wind through leaves, a single word emerged. Dad. Jiho froze. Every Solari in the hangar froze. The word hung in the air, impossible and perfect. Nari opened her eyes and looked at Jiho with wonder. She had spoken, actually spoken with voice instead of thought. She tried again, and this time the word was stronger. Dad? Yes, Jiho whispered, tears streaming down his face. Yes, the hangar remained frozen in stunned silence. Nari clung to Jiho, her small voice repeating Dad over and over as if she was afraid the ability would disappear if she stopped. Jiho held her tightly, his own tears falling onto her crystalline hair. Elder Kira was the first to move. She stepped closer, her large eyes studying both the human and the Solari child. This is unprecedented, she said softly. In all my years, I have never heard of a Solari speaking with voice. We do not possess vocal cords like your species. It should be impossible. Hana moved forward, her medical scanner already in hand. May I examine her? Jiho nodded, and Hana gently scanned Nari while the child continued to hold on to her adoptive father. After a moment, Hana's expression turned to amazement. Her body is adapting, Hana explained. The same trauma that destroyed her telepathic organs seems to have triggered changes in her throat structure. She's developing something similar to human vocal cords. It's crude, basic, but functional. Adaptation, Elder Kira said thoughtfully. The Silari have always been adaptable. We survive by changing to fit our environment, but this is remarkable. One of the younger Silari stepped forward. His crystalline skin was a pale blue and his expression showed clear disapproval. Elder Kira, surely you cannot permit this. A human raising a Silari child? It goes against all tradition. Tradition, Elder Kira repeated, her voice carrying weight. Tell me, June, what tradition says we should abandon a child who cannot hear our thoughts? What tradition says we should force her to live among us as an outsider, forever separated from our communal bonds? June hesitated. She is still Silari. She belongs with her people. Does she? Elder Kira looked at Nari, who had finally stopped repeating her new word and was watching the conversation with wide eyes. Look at her. She has been with these humans for months. She has learned their ways, adapted to their culture, and now she speaks their language. Perhaps she has found where she truly belongs. Another elder, a female with golden-tinted skin, spoke up. But the implications, Kira? If we allow this, what message does it send? That our children can be raised by other species? That we accept cross-species families? Is that such a terrible message? Elder Kira asked. The galaxy is changing. Our old ways of isolation and separation are not working anymore. Perhaps this child represents a new path. The discussion continued. But Jiho's attention was on Nari. She was watching the Silari speak, and though she couldn't hear their telepathic communication, she seemed to understand that they were debating her future. Her small hand gripped Jiho's uniform tightly. Dad, she whispered again, looking up at him. Home? Jiho's heart swelled. She wanted to go home, back to the ship, back to their family. Soon, he promised. We need permission first. Elder Kira finally turned back to them. Captain Jiho, I must ask you serious questions. Answer them honestly. Of course. Can you provide for this child? Keep her safe, healthy, educated? Yes, my ship is well equipped and my crew is capable. Hana is an excellent doctor. We have everything Nari needs. Can you teach her about her heritage? Help her understand where she comes from? Jiho paused. I can teach her what I know about the Silari. I can make sure she knows her people's history and culture. But I won't force her to be something she's not. If she wants to be both Silari and human, I'll support that. What if she changes her mind? What if years from now she wishes to return to her people? Then I'll bring her back myself. I won't keep her prisoner, but that will be her choice to make. Elder Kira studied him for a long moment. Then she looked at the other elders and some silent communication passed between them. Finally she nodded. There is one among us who may have insight on this matter. Kira the Younger, step forward. A Silari female emerged from the crowd. Her crystalline skin was marked with scars, unusual among her people. She moved with a slight limp, and when she looked at Jiho and Nari, there was understanding in her eyes. I too was damaged, Kira the Younger said, speaking aloud for Nari's benefit. An accident in my youth destroyed part of my telepathic ability. I can hear others, but they cannot hear me clearly. I have lived my life on the edges of our community, always separate. She knelt down beside Nari. Little one, I know what it is like to not fit, to watch others connect while you stand alone. The elders will take you in if you wish it. They will care for you. But I must be honest with you, it will be lonely. Every day you will feel the silence where there should be voices. Every gathering, every celebration, every moment of connection among your people, you will be outside looking in. Nari's glow dimmed as she listened. But, Kira the Younger continued, if you go with this human, you will have something different. You will have a family that sees you as whole, not broken. You will have people who communicate the way you do now, with words instead of thoughts. You will belong. She looked up at Elder Kira. I support this adoption. The child has found her place. Who are we to take it from her? Elder Kira was quiet for a long time. Then she sighed, a sound like wind through crystal chimes. Very well. I will permit this adoption, but with conditions. Name them. Jiho said. First, the child must return to visit us once every 2 years. She should know her heritage and her people. Agreed. Second, if at any point she wishes to return permanently, you must honor that wish, of course. Third, you must register this adoption with the Interspecies Council. Make it legal and official. Protect her rights as a sentient being. I'll do it as soon as we reach the nearest station. Then, Elder Kira said, and for the first time she smiled, I give my blessing. May you both find happiness in this new family. Nari's glow brightened instantly. She looked at Jiho, then at Elder Kira, and back at Jiho. Stay? With Dad? Yes, Jiho said, his voice thick with emotion. You're staying with me, forever. Nari threw her arms around his neck and held on tight. Her voice, still new and uncertain, whispered against his ear. Love you, Dad. Jiho closed his eyes, overwhelmed. I love you too, Nari, so much. The crowd of Silari began to disperse. Some looked pleased, others uncertain, but none protested further. Elder Kira approached and placed a gentle hand on Nari's head. Be happy, little one, and remember, you are always welcome here. Nari nodded shyly. Then she said, carefully forming each word, Thank you. Before they left, Kira the younger gave them a gift. It was a small crystal pendant on a silver chain. This belonged to Nari's birth mother, she explained. We recovered it from their family quarters after they were lost. Nari should have something from them. Jiho took it carefully and placed it around Nari's neck. The crystal glowed softly against her chest, the same amber color as her skin. Nari touched it gently and her expression grew sad. She couldn't remember her birth family clearly, but some part of her recognized the significance. She whispered, Mama. Yes, Jiho said softly. From your first mama, she would be happy knowing you're safe and loved. As they walked back to the ship, Yuna fell into step beside Jiho. You realize what you've done, right? Cross-species adoption is going to cause waves across the entire galaxy. I know, Jiho said, watching Nari skip ahead with Hana, her small hand holding the doctor's. But I don't care. She's my daughter now. Let the galaxy deal with it. Back on the ship, the crew celebrated. Taemin had prepared a special meal, managing to create something that both humans and Nari could eat. Nari sat in her usual spot next to Jiho, but now she wouldn't stop talking. Her vocabulary was limited to a few dozen words, but she used them constantly. Dad, happy, love, home, stars, pretty, food, good. Each new word was a victory, a proof that she was adapting and growing. The crew listened with delight, encouraging every attempt at speech. That night, Jiho tucked Nari into her bed in his quarters. She had officially moved in permanently, her few possessions arranged carefully on a small shelf. The pendant from her birth mother hung on the wall beside her drawings. Good night, Nari, Jiho said, pulling the blanket up to her chin. Nari grabbed his hand before he could leave. Dad, story? Jiho smiled. He had been telling her stories before bed, simple tales from Earth about animals and adventures. Okay, one story. He settled beside her bed and began to tell her about a brave little girl who traveled across the stars and found a family among the humans. Nari listened with wide eyes, her glow soft and content. When the story ended, she whispered sleepily, That me? Yes, that's you. Happy ending? The happiest, Jiho promised. Nari smiled and closed her eyes. Within minutes, she was asleep, her small chest rising and falling peacefully. Jiho watched her for a while, still amazed that this small alien girl had become the center of his world. He had lost a daughter 3 years ago. That wound would never fully heal. But somehow this strange, silent child who spoke one precious word had helped him find purpose again, had helped him remember how to love. As he left the quarters, he found his crew waiting in the common room. Hana had tears in her eyes. Yuna was smiling broadly. Taemin raised a cup of coffee and toast. To our newest family member, Taemin said, and to the captain who had the courage to make it official. They drank together, celebrating this strange and wonderful new chapter of their lives. Outside the window, the stars sang. The news spread faster than Jiho expected. Within 2 weeks of registering Nari's adoption with the Interspecies Council, every major news network in human space was covering the story. A human captain had adopted an alien child. It was unprecedented. It was controversial. It was exactly the kind of story that captured public imagination. Jiho watched the news reports with growing unease. On Earth, reactions were mostly positive. Videos of Nari learning to speak went viral. People called Jiho a hero, proof of humanity's compassion and ability to see beyond species differences. The phrase humanity, started trending on social networks. But not everyone was happy. Political commentators worried about the legal implications. Religious leaders debated whether cross-species families violated natural law. Some xenophobic groups protested loudly, claiming that humans shouldn't mix with aliens. The alien communities had even stronger reactions. The Velthari Council filed an official complaint, claiming that Jiho had essentially kidnapped a child under their protection. Never mind that the Solari had never asked for Velthari protection and actually feared them. A delegation from the Threen Collective, a powerful alliance of insectoid species, released a statement condemning the adoption. They argued that species should remain separate, that mixing cultures would lead to the loss of unique traditions. Even among humans, there were critics. The Galactic Unity Party, which advocated for strict cultural boundaries, called Jiho irresponsible. They claimed he was using Nari for publicity, that he couldn't possibly provide proper care for an alien child. Jiho ignored most of it. His priority was Nari, who was thriving despite the controversy. Her vocabulary grew every day. She could now speak in simple sentences, her voice still soft and uncertain but growing stronger. "Dad, look," she would say, pointing at stars. "That one pretty?" "Want to draw?" she would announce, gathering her papers and colored pencils. "Hana is nice. I like her." Every word was a small miracle. Hana continued to monitor Nari's physical development, fascinated by how her body was adapting. The vocal structures in her throat were becoming more refined. Her crystalline skin could now show more subtle color changes, expressing emotions the way humans used facial expressions. Nari was becoming something new. Not quite Silari, not quite human, but a bridge between both worlds. One morning, Jiho received a priority message from Earth. It was from Admiral Mirai, his former commanding officer and one of the highest-ranking officials in the human space fleet. "Captain Jiho," the Admiral's stern face filled the screen. "I need to speak with you about your situation. It's important." Jiho took the call privately in his quarters. Admiral Mirai didn't waste time with pleasantries. "The Velthari are pushing hard for us to hand over the Solari child. They're threatening trade sanctions if we don't comply." "Nari," Jiho said firmly. "Her name is Nari and she's my daughter. I understand your attachment, Captain. But this is becoming a diplomatic incident. The Velthari have military power that we can't ignore. The Solari elders gave their blessing for the adoption. I have the documentation. The Velthari have no legal claim to her." Admiral Mirai sighed. "Legal claims don't matter much when the other side has warships. I'm not ordering you to give her up, Jiho, but I need you to be careful. Keep a low profile. Avoid Velthari space. And for heaven's sake, stop doing interviews with news networks. I haven't done any interviews." "Then tell your crew to stop." That video of Nari saying her first word has been viewed 1 billion times. Every time she appears on screen, the pressure increases. After the call ended, Jiho sat quietly thinking. He had known this wouldn't be easy, but he hadn't anticipated the level of political maneuvering. He was just one man trying to raise a child. Why did that have to become a galactic incident? Nari poked her head into the room. "Dad sad?" Jiho forced a smile. "No, sweetheart. Just thinking." Nari climbed into his lap, something she did whenever she sensed he was troubled. "It okay, I hear." Jiho hugged her close. "Yes, you are. And that makes everything better." 2 days later, the real trouble began. Taman picked up encrypted communications nearby. Someone was following them, staying just out of sensor range but definitely tracking their movements. "Could be Velthari," Taman suggested. "Or maybe journalists trying to get exclusive footage. Or something worse," Yuna added darkly. Jiho increased security protocols. The crew took shifts watching sensors. Nari, unaware of the danger, continued her daily routine of lessons with Yuna, drawing time and helping Hana organize the medical bay. It was during one of these quiet afternoons that the attack came. Not from the ships following them, but from within. The ship's computer system suddenly locked down. Screens went dark. Life support switched to backup power. Emergency alarms blared throughout the vessel. "We're being hacked," Taman shouted from the engine room. "Someone is accessing our systems remotely." Jiho's blood ran cold. "Where's Nari?" "Medical bay with Hana," Yuna reported. Jiho ran. The corridors were lit only by emergency lights, casting everything in red shadows. He reached the medical bay to find Hana holding Nari close, both of them frightened by the alarms. "What's happening?" Hana asked. "We're under attack. Come on. We need to get to the bridge." As they moved through the corridors, a voice suddenly echoed through the ship's speakers. It was cold, mechanical, processed through filters to hide the speaker's identity. "Captain Jiho, we know you have the Solari specimen. Surrender her and your crew will not be harmed." Jiho's hands clenched into fists, "Over my dead body." "That can be arranged," the voice replied. "We are the Advancement Project. The specimen was created by us. She is our property." Nari whimpered and buried her face against Jiho's chest. She recognized that name. The Advancement Project was the organization that had tortured her, experimented on her, destroyed her telepathy. "She's not property," Jiho said loudly. "She's a person, and she's under my protection. Your protection means nothing. We have shut down your systems. We will board your vessel in 10 minutes. If you resist, we will kill everyone except the specimen." The communication cut off. Jiho looked at his crew. Hana was pale but determined. Yuna's jaw was set in anger. They reached the bridge to find Taemin frantically working to restore systems. "I'm locked out of everything," Taemin said. "They have complete control. Life support, engines, weapons, everything." "Can you break their hack?" Jiho asked. "Maybe, but not in 10 minutes. Jiho thought quickly. They were outgunned and outmaneuvered. A conventional defense was impossible. But humans didn't survive in the galaxy by fighting fair. They survived by being creative, adaptable, and occasionally crazy. "Taemin, can you access the waste disposal system?" Taemin looked confused. "Yeah, that's on an isolated circuit. Why?" "Because they won't expect us to weaponize our trash. Hana, gather every medical supply that can be turned into an irritant or smokescreen. Yuna, find every emergency flare and cutting torch we have. We're going to make boarding this ship very unpleasant." The crew moved quickly. Jiho turned to Nari, who was watching with wide, frightened eyes. He knelt down and took her small hands in his. "Nari, I need you to be very brave. Can you do that?" She nodded, her glow dim with fear. "What happened?" "Bad people are coming. The same ones who hurt you before. But I promise I won't let them take you." "You promise?" "I promise. Now I need you to hide somewhere very small and very quiet. Can you do that?" Nari's lip trembled, but she nodded. "Where?" Jiho led her to a maintenance shaft barely large enough for her small body. "Crawl in here and don't come out until I call for you. No matter what you hear, stay hidden. But Dad, I'll be okay. Trust me." Nari hugged him tightly. "Love you." "Love you too, sweetheart. Now hide." She crawled into the shaft and Jiho sealed it behind her. Then he returned to his crew. They had assembled a makeshift arsenal. It wasn't much against armed professionals, but it would have to do. "Everyone remember," Jiho said. "Humans survived because we're stubborn, creative, and too dumb to know when we're beaten. Let's show these people what that means." The boarding began exactly 10 minutes later. 6 figures in combat armor forced their way through the airlock. They moved with military precision, weapons raised, expecting minimal resistance. What they got instead was chaos. The moment they entered, Taemin vented waste products into the corridor. The smell was overwhelming. Before they could adjust, Hana threw chemical irritants that filled the air with burning smoke. Yuna activated emergency flares that blazed with blinding light. The intruders stumbled, their sensors overwhelmed. Jiho and his crew attacked with whatever they had, cutting torches, metal pipes, even food trays from the galley. It wasn't elegant or heroic. It was desperate and messy and very human. One intruder went down, his armor dented by Taemin's wrench. Another stumbled into a wall, temporarily blinded. But there were still 4 more, and they were adapting to the conditions. A weapon fired. The bolt of energy missed Jiho by inches, burning a hole in the wall. He dove for cover behind a storage container. This wasn't working. They were outmatched. Then something unexpected happened. The ship's lights flickered back on. Systems came back online, and through the authorities arrived 3 hours later. A human space fleet patrol vessel took the 6 unconscious intruders into custody. Their leader, once removed from his armor, turned out to be a human scientist named Dr. Vex. He had been one of the main researchers for the illegal advancement project. Admiral Murray personally oversaw the interrogation. Dr. Vex sang like a bird once he realized the severity of his crimes. He revealed the locations of other advancement project facilities. the names of collaborators and details of experiments that had been conducted on dozens of children from various species. The scandal was enormous. Governments across the galaxy launched investigations. The Velthari Council, embarrassed by their connection to the project, quietly dropped their demands for Nari's return. The Interspecies Council passed new laws protecting the rights of adopted children, regardless of species. But Jiho didn't care about any of that. His concern was for Nari, who had nightmares for weeks after the attack. She would wake up crying, calling for him in the darkness. He would hold her and hum his lullaby until she fell back asleep, her glow slowly returning. "The bad people can't hurt you anymore," he would tell her. "They're locked away forever. Promise?" she would ask, her voice small. "I promise." 6 months after the attack, Jiho received an unexpected message. It was from a representative of the Threen Collective, the same group that had initially condemned his adoption of Nari. "Captain Jiho, we wish to apologize. We judged your actions without understanding. We have been approached by several families within our collective who wish to adopt children from other species. Your example has inspired them to open their hearts beyond their own kind. We were wrong to condemn you." Similar messages came from other species. A Draxi couple wanted to adopt a human orphan. A Karathi family took in a Solari child who had lost their parents. Slowly, across the galaxy, the walls between species began to crack. Jiho showed Nari the messages. Her reading skills had improved dramatically. She could now understand basic text. "Other people do like us?" she asked. "Yes," Jiho said. "You started something important, Nari. You showed everyone that family doesn't have to be about the same species. It's about love." Nari smiled, her glow brightening. "I like that." 1 year after the adoption, Jiho fulfilled his promise to Elder Kira. He took Nari back to the Veil Nebula for her first official visit. She was nervous, holding his hand tightly as they docked at the station. The Solari greeted them warmly. Elder Kira embraced Jiho like an old friend. "Welcome back, Captain. And young Nari, look how much you've grown." "Hello, Elder Kira," Nari said carefully. Her vocabulary was now extensive, though she sometimes struggled with complex words. "I'm glad to see you." The visit lasted 3 days. Nari learned about Solari history and culture. She tried traditional foods and participated in ceremonies as much as she could without telepathy. Kira the Younger became her guide, showing her the crystal gardens and teaching her ancient songs. But Nari never forgot where she belonged. Each night she would return to Jiho and curl up beside him. "Ready to go home tomorrow?" she would ask. "Not yet, sweetheart. We have 1 more day here." "Okay, but I miss our ship." On their last night, Elder Kira spoke privately with Jiho. "She is happy with you. Anyone can see that. You made the right choice, Captain." "Thank you. That means a lot. She will always be welcome here, but I think we both know she has found her true home." Jiho nodded, watching Nari play with a group of young Solari children. They couldn't communicate telepathically with her, but they had adapted using gestures and simple words. Children always found ways to connect. 2 years after the adoption, the human space fleet offered Jiho a promotion. He would command a larger vessel, have a bigger crew, and receive significant pay increase. But the job would require traveling to dangerous regions, extended missions away from safe space. Jiho turned it down. His priorities had changed. Nari was in school now, learning alongside other children at a frontier colony that welcomed mixed-species families. She had friends, both human and alien. She was thriving. "I'm exactly where I need to be," Jiho told Admiral Mirai. "Raising a child has changed you," the Admiral observed. "She saved me," Jiho said simply. "I was lost after losing my first daughter. I was just going through the motions of living. Nari gave me purpose again. She reminded me what matters." The Admiral smiled. "Then I'm happy for you, Captain. Not everyone finds a second chance." On Nari's 8th birthday by human calendar, though she was probably closer to 6 by Solari aging, the crew threw a massive party. The entire colony attended. Humans, Solari, Draxi, Karathi, and half a dozen other species gathered to celebrate. Nari wore a dress that Hana had made, incorporating both human and Solari design elements. Her crystalline skin glowed brightly with happiness. She ran around with her friends, playing games and laughing loudly. Jiho watched her with a full heart. She was healthy, happy, and loved. What more could a parent want? Dad, Nari called, running over to him. Dad, watch this. She climbed onto a small stage and cleared her throat. Then in a voice that had grown strong and clear over the years, she began to sing. It was Jiho's lullaby, the one he had hummed to her during those first frightened nights. But Nari had added words, creating a song about finding home among the stars. Her voice wasn't perfect. It was still slightly rough, still showed signs of her alien biology. But it was beautiful. The crowd listened in silence, and when she finished, they erupted in applause. Nari bowed, grinning widely. Then she jumped off the stage and ran to Jiho, throwing herself into his arms. Did you like it? It was perfect, Jiho said, his eyes wet. You're perfect. That evening, after the guests had left and the colony had quieted down, Jiho tucked Nari into bed. She was exhausted but happy, still smiling even as her eyes drooped with sleep. Best birthday ever, she murmured. I'm glad, sweetheart. Nari looked at the pendant around her neck, the one from her birth mother. She touched it gently. Dad, do you think my first mama would be happy? That I'm with you? Jiho sat on the edge of her bed, carefully considering his answer. I think she would be grateful that you're safe and loved. That's what every parent wants for their child. I wish I could remember her better. That's okay. You can honor her memory by being happy, by living a good life. That's the best gift you can give her. Nari was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I have 2 families now. My first one that I can't remember, and you. Is that okay? That's more than okay. That's perfect. You carry both with you. Your Solari heritage and your human family. You're the best of both worlds. Nari smiled. I like being both. Me too. She yawned widely. Dad, will you stay until I fall asleep? Always. Jiho sat beside her bed, holding her small hand. Within minutes, her breathing evened out and her glow settled into a soft, peaceful rhythm. But he didn't leave. He stayed, watching over his daughter, this small miracle who had changed his entire world. He thought about the journey that had brought them here, finding her alone and terrified on that derelict ship, her first word, the moment she called him Dad. The battles they had fought together, both physical and political. Every challenge had been worth it for moments like this. Outside the window, the colony was settling in for the night. Other families were tucking their children into bed, both human and alien, biological and adopted. The galaxy was changing, slowly but surely, becoming a place where love mattered more than species. And it had all started with one human captain who refused to abandon a scared little girl. 3 more years passed. Nari was now 11 by human years, growing taller and more confident every day. Her voice had lost all traces of uncertainty. She spoke multiple languages fluently, including Solari Sign Language that she had created herself for communicating with telepathic species. She had become something of a celebrity, though Jiho tried to shelter her from too much attention. People called her the bridge child, the one who proved that different species could become family. Schools taught about her story. She inspired countless other adoptions across the galaxy. But to Jiho, she was just Nari, his daughter, the girl who still crawled into his bed during thunderstorms, who loved drawing more than anything, who could name every constellation visible from their colony. One afternoon, Jiho found her in the garden behind their small house. They had settled on the colony permanently, giving up life on the ship for something more stable. Nari was sketching something in her notebook, her crystalline face scrunched in concentration. What are you drawing? Jiho asked, sitting beside her. Nari showed him. It was a picture of their family, all of them. Jiho, Hana, Taemin, Yuna, and Nari herself. But there were 2 shadowy figures in the background, barely visible. A Solari couple holding hands. My first parents, Nari explained. I wanted them in the picture too. They're part of my story, even if I don't remember them. Jiho felt his throat tighten. That's beautiful, Nari. I used to be sad that I couldn't remember them. But now I think maybe it's okay. They gave me life and you gave me family. Both are important. When did you get so wise? Nari grinned. I learned from the best.